I want you to take a look at the British pound at 121.57. It is just off its 8-week lows here. It started tanking this morning. This is we await, and here's the breaking news. We're awaiting the Queen's signature on the first official step the UK will take to begin, don't call them divorce proceedings from the European Union. But could Scotland, known to have brave hearts all through the country, throw a wrench into Prime Minister Theresa May's plans? Political fisticuffs between May and Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon abound. In a Fox Business exclusive, let's bring in Sir Peter Westmacott to tell us about the ramifications of all of this. He's the former UK ambassador to not only the US, but also to France and Turkey, which, by the way, Sir Peter, I was just reading that only the Turkish lira has performed worse than the UK pound this year, and they had an attempted coup. So the pound's not doing well at the moment. What's going on here? Was it that Parliament officially gave Theresa May exactly what she wanted, the ability to trigger this Article 50, which allows the first steps to extricate yourself from the European Union? Or was it something that Nicola Sturgeon of Scotland said this morning, well before the vote?
Well, we had both. The Prime Minister was very pleased that she managed to get the law through, which allows the beginning of the Article 50 negotiations. Quite a difficult passage through the Parliament, but she saw off some difficult amendments, and then the law was ready to go to the Queen for her signature. And then, as you were saying, Nicola Sturgeon lobs a brick through the window of 10 Downing Street, and we end up with a bit of a shock, and this has caused a 2-week delay in the opening of the formal negotiations of Article 50 with the European Union. So it wasn't quite what was expected. Theresa May did get what she wanted, but she won't be now going to the European Council with her request to leave for another couple of weeks.
Okay, so the brick, the proverbial brick that Nicola Sturgeon threw through the window of 10 Downing, I like how you put that, is that she said, you know what? We already had a referendum in 2014 about leaving the United Kingdom, and everybody voted against independence. She wants to have a second one now because she believes that many of her constituents want to stay in the European Union, and they might this time vote for independence. What say you? Will they vote for independence if given the chance?
Well, she's got a bit of a point in that although the last referendum on Scottish independence, which was lost by a margin of 10 points, was just a few years ago and was a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the Scots to determine their future, Nicola Sturgeon and a number of other people say, well, the referendum for the UK to leave the European Union changes the whole game. And since 62% of Scots voted to stay in the European Union, even if 52% of the Brits as a whole voted to leave, we would like to have another crack at determining our future.
Okay.
But of course, there's a bit of politics involved here.
Oh,
and she has moved very quickly, more quickly than people expected, partly because she wants to get ahead of the political game, and because she's got a lot of people who's joined her political party since the last referendum on Scottish independence, and some of them even since the referendum on the UK leaving the European Union, and she's got to make sure that she is on the front foot.
What does this all really mean? Because, look, the state camp, and I believe you were among them, did have a lot of concerns, and look, the other side would call it fear-mongering, forecasting disaster, but the FTSE 100, which is sort of the British version of the Dow 30, has actually done quite well since June 23rd. We can show it to you because it looks pretty strong. There were multiple moves to the upside. Now we're up 16% since then. And then I'm wondering if partly that happened because President Trump said he'd be happy to strike a bilateral trade bill, keeping the UK stable. What do you forecast for trade relations between the US and the UK?
Well, I can't actually see your screen or you, so I hope you can see me.
I can see you.
That's okay.
You look great, by the way.
Aren't you kind? I think that President Trump's intervention in this debate by saying, I'm a Brexiteer, and by the way, I believe in giving the United Kingdom a nice free trade agreement very quickly after you leave the European Union, I think that did help the debate. It certainly has given Theresa May a support which is important in the politics of all this. But what I would say is that, in my opinion anyway, and you're quite right to say that I was somebody who voted to stay in the European Union, I think we're still in a bit of a phony war. We haven't triggered the non-divorce divorce proceedings, as you called them. And at the moment, the market's doing quite well. Exports have held up. But the impact of a 15 to 20% drop in the value of sterling on the competitiveness of British exports in the longer term, on the supply chain, on ordinary people's holidays abroad, all that kind of stuff, and on inflation, and the impact also of some of the loss of business which will result from our not being in the European Union's single market on our tax receipts, which are a big drama as well. I personally worry that in a few months' time, once the negotiations start, once the numbers start feeding through into the system, that we are going to see the British economy beginning to lose a bit of the traction, and some of the very good numbers, surprisingly good numbers, which we have had since the referendum itself took place last June.
Hey, it's great to see
I
you.
hope I'm wrong,
yes or no, we've got to run, but will the Queen put her signature to it and say yes?
The Queen doesn't actually have a choice. She signs into law everything that the House of Commons, or rather I should say Parliament collectively in its wisdom, votes to be British law.
And then she'll have finger sandwiches. Good to see you. Sir Peter Westmacott.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Thank you.